時に素早い回避スキル、そして組み合わせ次第で違う効果をもたらす技の数々。昼夜を問わず特訓し続けてもまだ全てをマスターしたとは言えないな。休憩が必要なんじゃないか、ドクター。そうだ、よかったらこれを試してみてくれ。アイルーたちが眠り草という薬草とキノコの一種を調合して作ったものなのが、使うとよく眠れるらしい。
Alright, so today's guest needs no introduction. It's Ethan, as you can see on the screen. I'll do a little bit of an introduction. For those of you that don't know some of his achievements, Ethan's actually been playing professionally for 7 years, since 2016, and that's kind of crazy because he's 23 years old, so it's still a huge amount of time left to extend that already quite successful career. Just won champions, of course, in LA with EG, and just, I believe the first Valorant player, or rather, sorry, yeah, the first Valorant player to win both a major title in Valorant and CSGO too. So one of the people in the scene that has a huge amount of experience, and I'm so happy to get to talk to you today, Ethan. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, right out the gate, things have been crazy in the off season, leading up to leading into next year. Obviously, a lot of movement with all of the teams. I feel like things are spinning around, and I feel really bad for you guys at EG because you guys have just won the biggest tournament. You had an incredible year, and I feel like you haven't even had time to process the feelings before other things are kind of happening and getting in the way. So what is even happening for you personally right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think we got a little bit. We got we won, we celebrated. Plus we were all super close to home too. So I mean, we got to come back and relax a little bit, at least before stuff started going down. But I think we all know, me especially, when an off season's coming up, nothing's for sure. And there's probably always going to be a little bit of either drama or just like moving parts here and there. But definitely there was a lot more we thought than a lot more than we thought after especially winning the biggest tournament so far. But we roll with the punches to figure it out.
Yeah, I feel like it's been such a, you used the word drama, and I feel like there's been so much drama this year. We'll get into some of it, but first I really want to focus a little on the fact that you've had a really crazy journey in Valorant so far. You really had an amazing team. One first strike with that team with 100 Thieves, of course with Nitro and so on and Steel. Really amazing roster. You guys did great things. Things didn't go so well. Eventually that ended up splitting up. I think that's something we talked about. And then sort of after that, I felt like it seemed like you weren't able to find success with the teams that you're on, and everybody has you really high in terms of stock value because of your CSGO history and what you already did with Valorant. But it seemed to be the case that things just weren't clicking for quite a while. Like it wasn't until this EG roster. And I feel like maybe that was like a 2-year period almost, where you're kind of adrift in a sense, where I think everyone's thinking, man, I'm expecting Ethan to be on a championship winning team, but right now I'm not really seeing his teams kind of matching up to that expectation. So what was that like for you to push through that adversity and to figure out, to navigate that? Because it must have been pretty stressful and difficult.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of good ups and a lot of bad downs. Especially I'll start from the beginning. I think on 100 Thieves, I joined knowing, I think everyone but Asuna was like from CS. So I think like, you know, coming from CS, it was like a dream team for me, especially because they were probably the best team at that point, just winning first strike. So, you know, joining that team was awesome. We went to Berlin, so, you know, instantly coming to Valorant and qualifying for like a huge tournament, being Masters Berlin was big. And then, you know, definitely tapered off a little bit. I think when Nitro went to CS, that kind of you know, that kind of changed things up a little bit, made it a little difficult, and there was a lot of, like you said, just a lot of roster changes after that, so it kind of just crumbled, honestly. And then going to Energy was like, I think a really big stepping stone in my career. You know, it was working with a lot of young players, and also with Hayes, so another CS vet. And yeah, it was fun. I think that was there's a lot of like talent development, in my opinion. I think you know, Assam, Tex, and EIU, they were pretty new to the competitive scene, or at least like the top tier competitive scene. And I think that's kind of where I thrive, is with like younger players, and just like, you know, kind of develop talent. I think it's fun, and I think it showed on EG. I think you know, everyone from staff and obviously the players, you know, developed tremendously, and I think that's kind of why I'm here today. So that's the history.
Yeah, it's been an amazing, you know, rise, and I think there's just so many great moments with it. Obviously, there is the whole situation where, you know, 100 Thieves, you know, who I was a part of at the time, we failed against NYBR, who had a coach stand-in, a team that hadn't like won in the entire season, you know, like that was like the start of the run almost. Because and actually, whilst we're on that, how impactful do you feel like it was that happened? Because obviously you guys would have been able to, I think, play LCQ anyway still, so you could have still qualified technically, but you wouldn't have had a chance to go to Tokyo, where of course you made a run through the playoffs to qualify to it, and then you made a run to Tokyo too. So surely that, you know, that moment really set things in motion for you guys.
Yeah, I think making Tokyo obviously was like step one, so that was like super lucky, but doing that well in Tokyo, I think set us up for champs like insanely well. I think in Tokyo, I mean, like all of us have said it in interviews, but like every single game we didn't really expect to win. So after we won most of our games, like very convincingly against the NBA teams, and like I think we like 2-0 Loud, 2-0 Liquid, 2-0 DRX. Like won the BO5 against PRX. You know, the only team we lost to was Fnatic twice, so it's like right after that event, knowing like going into champs, we were like confidence was sky high, even though we didn't even win the tournament in Tokyo. Just like knowing we only lost to the best team twice, and kind of walked our way through every other team. It was just like gave us a crazy amount of confidence. So yeah, Tokyo was like the event. So I don't. If we didn't make Tokyo, you know, if you guys beat MBR and we didn't make Tokyo, that definitely would have changed that placing, or even make the ship. No, we had to make LCQ or go through LCQ if that didn't happen. So that's a huge question mark also.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, LCQ is super cutthroat. But how do we sort of get that to that sort of? I mean, you know, you guys had the opportunity, right? But that obviously doesn't mean that you can then necessarily go on and win all these matches. So, and there was this huge sort of change that happened, and it did seem from the outside looking in that there was almost like maybe a mutiny happening. Like it really seemed like from the outside looking in, things were really bad internally, and that people started to maybe take things into their own hands here or there. Like it's kind of the stuff that is nightmarish to be kind of a part of. But you guys not only managed it, you managed to actually turn into a team that won champions out of it. So what do you think were the key things that were going wrong, and what were the key things that you were able to change? Like, and how did you actually change those things?
Yeah, during the season, like the regular season, whenever we played in Riot Studio, it was definitely rough. I thought I, you know, screwed up again. You know, joining a team, another team. We were like we were like 1-3, 1-4, and then like even though we started to win a couple of games towards the end, it's like we probably didn't even make playoffs. Like some miracle had to happen, as everyone knows. You know, that was very, like, very down at that point. I think knowing there was such a small chance to make playoffs, that was literally just half of my year gone. It was very hard. And then, you know, it just all instantly turned around after one match. Being you guys. So, but yeah, there was a lot of, I think, like within the team, there was a lot of ups and downs, you know. I think people would be lying if there wasn't, like, if you were struggling during the season and you didn't have bad thoughts about the team, like, they'd be lying, right? So, there's always that, like, intrusive thought that comes in, especially when you're losing. But, you know, I think we definitely turned it around, and, you know, it was a lot of trust in teammates and staff and all that, and it worked out, and it panned out pretty good, I'd say. So definitely worth it.
Yeah, would you say like, did you guys make any changes in the day-to-day? Was it something that was more structural when it comes to who's responsible for what? Or was it something, you know, can you put it down to anything in such specifics?
Yeah, I think, well, you know, at the start of the season, we obviously changed players, so that was, like, the biggest step. I think, bringing in Demon 1 permanently was really good for us. I think he fit really good with the chemistry of the team, just like our playstyle. I think more so playstyle, I think, was a big thing, especially coming from a support player, like for me. Kind of like knowing, having a predictable duelist for yourself, obviously not for the enemy, is a really good strong suit, I think, for that kind of player. I think also him just fitting in with the team was really good. So that step one, you know, bring in the player. I think halfway through the season, what did we do? I think there was a lot of role issues at the start, and so once we ironed those out halfway through the season, you know, like putting me on more like permanent support agents, having Boosty go to like permanent KJ, and maybe like Ash for like 1 or 2 maps. What else? Having Jaw permanently on smokes was like a huge thing. That was a huge change to the team, I think. Before that, he was like a one-trick raise. So, you know, having him being able to play smokes at like an insanely high level was big too. And then I think Demon 1 played Jet pretty much the whole season. I don't think he got to controller until like maybe Tokyo. So yeah, that was, the roles were like a big thing for the team. It was a big question mark for the first like 5 games. We were just switching stuff here and there, different players here and there. It was all over the place. So once we got that figured out, we got a lot of confidence, definitely.
Who were some of the bigger voices, would you say, in essentially creating some of these solutions and maybe selling them?
I think creating them, there was a lot. It was honestly everybody. I think the core 3 and I, we talked a lot about, you know, comfortabilities, first off, and just potentially what people would want to play or like be comfy playing. So it's definitely wasn't like forced on anybody, but it was definitely talked about. And you know, everyone was on board here and there for certain things. So I think you know, Demon 1 kind of just went with the flow. You know, he just got promoted to the main team. He's playing Jet. You know, that's his agent, so he was kind of just going with it. But everyone else was very open to, you know, playing whatever. You know, you see IGL play Icebreaker, played KJ, played Smokes. Corbin played a bunch of different flex agents like I did. Jaw. I was very surprised with Jaw. I think he was definitely one of the most improved players in the season. Just being able to switch that kind of role mid-season and do that well on it is insanely impressive to me. But yeah, I think that was a big contributor to it.
That was going to be one of my questions, was, you know, who surprised you sort of the most on the team? and I guess it's a Jogame.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like throughout that transition period, I think Draw definitely impressed me the most. But like for the whole year, I said this in the interview like right after we won champs, and I think Calm definitely like kind of impressed the most and definitely improved the most. He was a big question mark, I think, from the outside looking in for a lot of people, but he definitely proved himself like a lot in Tokyo, but like an insane amount in champs. I think he like all the stats with the clutches, just like, you know, impressive, important, you know, individual rounds. It's crazy, so it's hard to say he didn't improve a lot.
When it comes to the Season 1 addition or change, was that something that you all talked a lot about, or was it something like, how did that decision sort of come to be exactly?
And that kind of just happened. We were just I don't remember which match. It had to have been like the first like 4 games. I think the roster change happened. But I think the question might have already been there before the season started. But we were trying to see if the main roster with BCJ would have worked for like a couple matches. So it was already kind of in the back of some people's heads. But at some point, you know, we just woke up and got a message saying Demon 1 was gonna play today, like a frack, and so that was kind of the start. So that was honestly, I was like very not on board, because this is the first time in my whole career I've had a 6-man play on my team, and you know, before that it was all like teams would have 6-mans, but they never really play. But we had a whole we had like 10 mans. We had a lot of people on our team, so I guess it was kind of inevitable. But it was I was very you know, confused, I guess, at the start. But yeah, I think it worked out. So.
Yeah, what was it sort of like for you? Like, what did you make of him? Did you already know, like, genuinely anything about him before that moment?
I knew nothing about him, other than, actually, there was one time when I was trying out for the team, or no, it was after I already made it, it was after I signed, in the practice season. I remember, like, I had something I had to do for, like, a couple days, so I missed a couple days of practice, and he stepped in for me on KO, and I remember just being completely unimpressed. Like, I knew, like, it looked like he had no clue what he was doing. But I did tell him, or I told the team, like, wow, like, he can aim. Like, he's very good, like, individually, like, mechanically. But, like, I told him, I was like, it looks like he's a jet for sure. So, that was the only time I really, like, watched him before him being on the team, honestly. But just from, like, the scrims, because at the start, we only scrimmed with him on a couple maps. It was very odd. So, like, we scrimmed with him on, like, some jet prominent maps, and then we scrimmed with GCJ on, like, some, like, Raze prominent maps. The Jaw would play Raze. So, like, half our day was with another 5th, half our day was with another 5th. So, I was definitely impressed with his comp. They were very good for, like, I guess, like, in my eyes, like a tier 2 player at the time. Especially being a jet main, you know, they're usually known for not commenting that much. But he impressed me definitely in the first couple scrims.
Yeah, I mean, he's had an incredible year, considering the fact that every single tournament he's been in, he's made a grand finals, and and it's like the biggest tournament. So pretty sick start to his career as a professional player. Insane rookie year. Is there anyone that you would compare him to, like, from Counter-Strike?
I'd say, like, honestly, Zaiwu at the start. I think Zaiwu at the start. It was just like a random they picked up at the start, if I remember correctly. Maybe not random, but like it was the same kind of premise, you know, like the tier under, or the league under. They just picked him up, and I think he just like instantly started frying. And then obviously, like, right now he's considered one of the best in the world. So I'd probably compare him to him. I think, you know, that role too. They're pretty similar.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And yeah, Zaiwu is Yeah, it's funny actually because I remember Sliggy had his eye on like the tier 2, tier 3 scene. He's like, Dan, you know, because he's doing a lot of observing at Face that back when I was working with them too, and he's like, Dan, this Cyril guy is gonna be the best player in the world. And I'm like, Sliggy, all right, cool. You know, it's just like whatever, just keep observing some Counter Strike bait but yeah, he was right. Yeah, Demon One, incredible player. What do you feel like his future is going to be in this game as a professional? With such a strong start, it's hard not to expect really huge things.
Yeah, I think he showed, you know, to be like one of the best in the world, I think he has to be like very flexible in this game. So I think he showed that. I think he showed he's an incredible entry, not even just like a jet main, but like an incredible entry for a team. I think he showed, obviously he can play smokes at an insanely high level. And, you know, that's something you definitely want from a teammate. I think right now it's very like at the start of Valorant, I think a team would be fine having like multiple one tricks on the team, right? So it's like when I first joined, you needed an Omen that could only play Omen on every single map. You'd be cool. You needed a Jet, you know, like a Killjoy, and then everything else is like whatever. But I think now it's like there's just so many different metas, and also just so many different agents now compared to before. You definitely need to be proficient on multiple to be able to be successful, in my opinion.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It was something that in my head I'm always thinking like I want a team that can just change agents, you know, at the drop of a hat in the tournament, because you know it really defeats, or at least it kills some of the opportunities for other teams to anti-strat you. At least it makes you a little bit more unpredictable, and it feels like, as you said, as time goes on, you know, you go through different metas, you get a lot of experience and time on these different agents. In theory, people should be able to flex into a lot of different things, but I feel like, you know, your team was really the first where it was kind of wild because, you know, again, like you got your star duelist like playing Brimstone sometimes, or you know, you've got, you know, Con who's the Sova specialist, but also playing, you know, Viper, or Lucio. It's like, didn't he play like Reyna like a bind at some point? Like, yeah, you know, just all sorts of wild stuff. Yeah, like, and you know, you're playing, you know, Yoru, and you know, so it's really cool because, you know, that level of flexibility, you know, you guys really showed that it can be done. And I think a lot of teams and players might be a bit more afraid. I think there's some fear to go into that more unknown territory of spending that time flexing, because it really can easily fall flat on its face. But you guys really nailed it. Do you feel like one big part of that is because you were struggling so much and you had to basically say, holy shit, we're kind of desperate, we just have to like change shit, whatever, and just figure it out?
No, I'd say it was definitely more calculated. I think the roster change was how you just described. Okay. I think it was a little more desperate. I think the roles though were definitely pretty calculated. I think bringing him in, we knew we just got like an insane, you know, duelist on Jet, but we also knew that we had like 4 other people that could like potentially flex also. So maybe the draw move to smokes was a little pushed and a little forced, and you know, luckily it worked out. But you know, Boosty, me, and Calm, pretty much on the same roles. I think it worked out pretty well, pretty good. I think you know, some teams like roles are a huge thing, and like being able to flex, but a big thing also is like the system, right? So it's like if you have 5 insane players, I think I think the best you know, example of it is Energy, right? I think Energy at the start of the season, they were switching roles on like every single map. I think every player played like 4 or 5 different agents, and they weren't playing well. They weren't playing well at all. I think obviously like all those players were very good. I think all of them obviously have the potential to play all those agents they played. But I think it's a big like system thing. I think if you don't have the right system, then it's like it just doesn't matter how good they are. I think you know, everyone had on our team, we had, you know, everyone had trust in each other. I think everyone kind of knew what everyone was doing, so that was like a big thing too. And at that point, it doesn't matter like what agents they're on. You can put any comp together, and if you still have like a good working system, it's like most likely gonna work out, in my opinion. That's, I think, why we did so well at the end of the year.
what would you say is the biggest difference maybe between like NRG system and yours when it comes to all of this role changing and flexibility?
Yeah. I don't think it's hard to say like looking into a team from the outside. It's really hard to say like what their system is because like for us, it's we just played so much honestly like in the preseason. We got so many reps on just like against so many comps. Our comps we played so many. So we really figured out what our strong suits are. So like what each individual player is like most comfortable with is what they're really good at. Obviously is like a really important thing to look at. Because if you put a player that's like super passive, doesn't really talk a lot, and is like kind of scared to take initiative, and you put them on like a lurk role, you're not really gonna get much value from that because they're probably not giving you too much information from that lurk area. They're probably not, taking initiative, like taking a timing maybe. So that would be the player you don't want to put on a lurk role, right? So stuff like that. That's just one example. So just finding out what your teammates' strong suits are, and just kind of maximizing that. And I think just like developing the player individually is like a huge part of our team. That's why I give props to our staff and our coach. I think Potter especially did like a very good job at that, developing talent. Because when I joined, it was not a championship winning team, 100%. It was so just seeing that development through the whole year was like incredible for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing what you guys accomplished with that flexibility, because it does feel like you did find. It wasn't like we're just wildly flexing into anything. It really like obviously it made sense because you guys won, and it was really singing the beautiful tune. The kind of crazy off rolls that was kind of occurring before our eyes. But you mentioned Potter. I also wanted to ask you about Zix, because I know that he was also there working with the team, and I'm actually not sure when he started working with you guys. Was he there the entire time? What was he up to? How did he help you?
Yeah, he was there when I joined. I had no idea he was there. So coming from Energy, I signed and I messaged him, or he messaged me. I don't remember. He's like welcome to the team, and I'm like, oh hey man, like it's good to see you. I had no idea he was there. So that was cool. But yeah, he had a very big impact on the team. I'd say he worked a lot with players individually, aside from just like being the assistant coach. So he didn't just help the coach, he helped every player individually. That was like from Sova lineups for Calm, if that was just like finding, honestly any lineups for anybody, if that was just like just super nerdy stuff, just like every like silent patch, or like he had like a spreadsheet of like every single ability, how long they lasted, all their cooldowns. But you didn't even need the spreadsheet, you could just tell you off the top of his head if you asked him. So I mean, like having someone like that just there to help you whenever you wanted, just like pretty big, I'd say, for individual players.
Awesome. Yeah, it's super interesting. It's again, if you guys hadn't had such a great result, maybe people would have overlooked him as well because he was a bit more behind the scenes. But you could see him there in a lot of the pictures with you guys on stage with the trophy and stuff. So, and he actually has a lot of achievements in League of Legends as well. So he's very experienced. So I'm curious, what will happen with him. But speaking a bit more on you guys and what you're able to achieve. Who on the team did you learn the most from? Because you're the veteran on the team for sure, but I would be surprised if there wasn't something that you picked up from the other guys too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think joining a team with, I guess, like a lot of rookies, it kind of brings you down to like, I guess, like back down to earth for like a lot of things. You still like learn a lot. So I'd say like just not everything has to be perfect, because like even coming from my like previous teams, I still like had struggles, focusing on that. Coming from Counter-Strike especially, like into Valorant and CS, everything had to be pretty much perfect for it to work really well. And coming into Valorant, that was like a big thing. So any play could work as long as you're confident, as long as you're like able to do it well, I guess. So that's a big thing I learned. I think from like the duelists, from Team and 1 and Draw, they're a lot more free with how they play, and thankfully they communicated very well, and they make it easy for me to like support them. So it's like I learned a lot being able to support a more like free-flowing player. And I think that's like a big thing because it's just like there's just so many variables in Valorant. You have to be able to be like you know, thinking on your toes, and I think that, you know, they help me a lot with that.
Yeah, I mean that's some of the most fun stuff to watch too, when you see the plays evolving in front of your eyes, and it's only possible because you basically like have a mind meld with your teammate, and you both are just super in sync, and I think that's definitely something that's harder to achieve, but you guys managed to do that obviously so well, and it's so cool that you got to, you know, you got so much recognition, you know, as in the support role, and that's again, it's so awesome to see because it means people really saw your impact, and that's not something I think that's, I mean, people talk about it, but it, you know, as a topic, but it's not normally as prominent as I think the praise that you received for all of the amazing work that you did in your role. So how is that recognition? Because again, support player is not the star duelist, you know, with the operator in hand, is a support player. So how is that recognition been for you?
Yeah, they make me look really good. I think you know, like when you support players, they don't capitalize off of your support. That's like the most frustrating thing, I think, as a support player. So, you know, having 4 people that can like capitalize very well off of what you do for them, like insane to play with. Also, it's like the system I mentioned earlier. It's also just very easy to support if, literally, like you said earlier, all 5 players just know what each other are doing at all times. But even then, like, there's some plays in these matches that like we've never done before, and you kind of just have to go with the flow. And everyone, that's where trust comes in, right? Because if you're a team that purely relies on like strategy and just like stuff you've gone over before, and your duelist just does some crazy stuff, it's like, and you're not ready for it, then it's probably not gonna work. Even if your duelist is like insane. It's a lot on like the whole team. So yeah, I mean they make me look really good, and I'm glad, you know, I got some recognition for it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think you guys really set the bar in that in a sense whereby, I mean, in theory, you know, having 5 super high level players playing together in a way where you almost don't need set strats because everyone sees the opportunities and they can just all come up with stuff on the fly. It's almost in one sense like way more optimal, and I feel like a lot of these systems are very structured, and that can kind of have that effect on people that they're going to be self-limiting a bit, and because otherwise they'll break the strat, they'll break the structure a little bit, and then it won't be easy for other people to follow up, and then it just gets a bit messy. So you guys seem to have kind of cracked the formula there where you're able to hit a really nice balance with things. And you know, with that said, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on Boostio as well, as the IGL, and firstly, you know, you've played with under a lot of IGLs obviously, and in a lot of successful teams. So how does he compare? You know, where is he good? Where is he? What does he need to work on? You know, give me your thoughts on Boostio.
Yeah, you know, coming in, he's always been like very, I guess, confident in his calls, which is a really big thing. I think if you don't have an IGL that's confident in their calls, you can definitely read it, and it makes, I think, the whole team a little less confident in it. So he's always been very confident in it. He has always been able to convey like his ideas very easily to the team. In like a good way, so like it's always very easy to understand what he wants to do. Cause like for me, on a lot of teams, I guess mostly in Counter-Strike, might have been just been because I was younger, but I always had to like ask twice, like what the strat was after they called it. So, you know, sometimes it's just hard to follow what people are trying to say. You know, but I think he did a really good job with that. I think. Also, like towards the end of the year, we just had like insane reads. I think we had like some of the highest percentage attack rounds, or like round win rate for attack side for the last 2 tournaments, and that was a lot on him. I think like mid rounds, you know, some of these rounds he would just take over completely and just like say like I have a read, just like trust me, and then you just say it, and it would work a lot of the time. So that, and also just having a lot of reps on stuff, with like just this team is everything just flowed insanely smooth, which I've never seen before on a team. It was definitely pretty crazy. I think just like, I guess for example, just like ult plays, it's like literally any combination of ults you could possibly have on any map we just had to play for. We had plays for, you know, ults. If we were like 2 points off of them, we had like strats for that. And like mid rounds, we had strats for like one orb off. So we had a deep playbook, even if it wasn't like written down somewhere. Like everyone kind of knew. And he orchestrated it very well.
That's awesome. This is really the biggest win you've ever had, right? I mean, I think the only thing that's comparable in CS:GO would be winning a major, right? So this is the biggest win you've ever had. What do you feel like is the next thing to do career-wise? What's the next thing to achieve?
I mean, the only thing to do is just keep winning. I think, you know, just like no team. I mean, I don't know, it's just so hard to like stay consistent in this game. I think it's because the long breaks. Like after Champs was what? August? Champs was August, and the next tournament, or the next match, sorry, isn't even until January. That's not even a tournament, that's just like regular season. So that in itself is kind of crazy. It's that far away, but you know, hopefully we can keep it up. You know, keep the formula together and figure out how to keep doing it.
What do you think is like separates like teams or players that are able to win championships and those that aren't? Because there are players and teams that never really they get close but they never manage to get over the hurdle. You guys just kind of catapulted yourselves there. Like never any doubt once you started really performing. So do you think there's a psychological aspect to it that kind of can mess with certain people? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't won twice in a row in this game, so I'll go back to CS. First in Counter-Strike, when we won in New York, that was the biggest tournament by far that I've ever won at that point. And, you know, the team was super ecstatic. Obviously we had Tarek, so he won a major already, but you know, the team at that point, we knew we were the best, had the best players by far. And we went into the next tournament, we came dead last. Literally like 4 days later, because we went on the plane from New York to Sweden, got a couple days to like rest, and then we played our match. Played 2 games, we lost instantly. So that was like a big kind of, I guess, like wake up call. It was like, damn, what just happened? We just thought we were the best, and we just didn't even win a match in this tournament. So I don't remember what we did. But like, that was, like I said, the wake-up call, and I think everyone knew, like, just because you were the best at one point doesn't mean you're being the best, you put more work, and we won the tournament right after that. So it was like a little roller coaster, and I think our team needed that wake-up call, so hopefully, you know, hopefully this team doesn't need it. Hopefully I can convey that message to them, and, you know, hopefully we can keep the ball rolling, and, keep adapting, I think, is a big thing about it too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like you say, it's super hard in Valorant, even more so than CS, because there's so much more variance in this game. It is really interesting that idea of winning like multiple tournaments. I remember like the famous chess player Gary Kasparov, he talked about this like difference between you know, winning and sort of, you know, chasing that title versus being the one that's being chased, and how sort of fundamentally different it is, you know, philosophically and psychologically to do that. Like Astralis, for example, in CS:GO, they really set their minds on winning everything, and winning a major wasn't just part of the work. It wasn't really, you know, anything more than that, and it's super interesting because I've seen so many teams like what you just described just drop off immediately, sometimes, you know, just completely, sometimes for a tournament or two, but yeah, it's very interesting to see that. So I'm curious in Valorant who's going to be able to kind of maybe replicate what Astralis did, and I think you guys are the best poised, you know, with what you already accomplished to do that, because you feel like, it feels like, again, much like with Astralis, kind of feels like you guys have been playing the most, let's say, developed Valorant, essentially, because you have like a style for sure, but you have a huge amount of adaptability, and it's not really gimmicky. And there's so much flexibility inherent within it that you guys can kind of go to any gear. Like it doesn't matter if you're playing, you know, a very slow methodical team, or if you're playing like a crazy team like PRX. You guys can kind of handle everything. And that in Valorant, from what I've seen, it's a lot of the time these like stylistic differences that you know, in a given meta that might give a team a certain edge over other teams. But you guys are resilient against pretty much everything thrown at you. So I thought that was very, very cool about how you guys built the team, and it's really admirable that you did that, because the game's been out for like what, 3 years now. And I think you guys are the first team I feel like I'm like, wow, these guys are the closest to a complete Valorant team. So yeah, it's,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's like I keep using the word system because I don't know any other word to use, but it's like, yeah, I think it's that's a huge thing. Like you said, I think being able to not be that gimmicky team that just like pulls out, you know, it's like the cringe comp chat, right? It's like he'll bring a couple comps out for a couple matches just to qualify or like win a couple games. But like that, I think long term it's not the best thing to do. And I think we figured out the best long term thing to do. And I think that's, you know, create a really like bulletproof system, in my opinion. I think is a good way to put it. I think that's kind of what we've created, and I think we've like adapted really well. I think we've just done a lot within our system to make it as good as we can, and I think it shows.
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to ask you, like, you know, what are the most important things that if a team wanted to replicate what you guys did, like, what would that be? But I almost feel like you can't answer that. Not because it's something where like, oh, I don't want to give the secret away, but like you said, it's kind of hard to distill it. Because it evolves with you guys, the players and the coaches and so on. So unless you think you can distill it.
I mean, there's some stuff just like literally no other team, no other player could like replicate. Like the stuff our 5 players have, the like trust and ways we have, just kind of have created and have tried out and figured out what works. Like no other player is gonna be able to replicate that perfectly. I mean, it's like the fracture thing, right? I think that's a good thing to look at. You know, we were obviously the best fracture team, and towards the end, every single team started just completely copying what we do, and they still couldn't beat us. So I think that's like a very good analogy for it. You can copy like the outside layer, you know, just like what you see from the outside looking in. You can copy strats, you can copy, you know, the places people play, but in the end it's like that's not all it's about. So yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And it's so hard to really encapsulate what you guys actually did, because after the playoffs you won like what, 13 games and like lost 3. Oh no, you played 13 games, like lost 3 of them, and as you said, 2 to Fnatic and 1 to PRX. And you generally didn't drop maps to anyone except Fnatic, and like 1 to PRX and a couple to Loud. So you know, I was going to ask you, you know, you're going into Champions. You know, you guys had, of course, that amazing result with Tokyo. And I assume you had to be at that point feeling like, holy shit, we can win Champions. Like, actually, here's the evidence. So what was the preparation like, and who were the teams that I think, you know, for you, you know, as far as your perspective, really gave you the most trouble? Yeah, you're saying in Champs?
Yeah.
Prep and stuff for Champs. Yeah, I think, you know, going into Champs, map pool is a pretty big thing, I'd say. That's like a base layer that you kind of want to get figured out. So coming from Tokyo, we knew no one was going to play on Fracture. And, you know, it ended up, we didn't play a single Fracture, I don't think, in Champs. So that worked out pretty well. Kind of not focusing on Fracture at all was a big thing. And just really like bulletproofing our, I guess, like comfort maps, or just normal maps, was a big thing for Champs. And honestly, like, because I remember in lock-in, we did a thing that I said wasn't probably good, is we used the Yoru compass to win a game. We did that in lock-in, and it worked very well. We won our first game, and then I think like pretty soon after that we got knocked out. But we also did the same thing in Champs. I think our first Pearl match, maybe it was our second one. I don't remember because I played KO in Yoru. So I think KO was first, and then I played Yoru for our second game. So win that one. I think it was the fourth game. And we won that. But comps was like a big thing. I think it didn't really change that much coming from Tokyo, if I remember correctly. It was a lot of just like focusing on like making sure our own game was very good. Because we knew that's what won us Tokyo. There was no, or sorry, that's what won us like a lot of games in Tokyo. There wasn't a lot of anti-strategy. There wasn't a lot of like changing comps to like win matches. It was a lot of just like us playing our game. So we kind of took that and rolled with that into champs.
Yeah, definitely. It's well, it works. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's so interesting because I think the whole like playing your game thing is it's such an interesting thing to talk about, because if you're competing, you're trying, when you're putting pressure on the opponent, you're trying to force them off of their game. You're trying to put them into like hard decisions. You're trying to make them uncomfortable, and it did really come across that you guys never really felt like, never looked uncomfortable ever, which is a very good sign, obviously, for your prospects when you're going through all those games. And you know, you mentioned kind of shoring up your comfort maps in the map pool. I'm curious when it comes to you know, how you guys think about maps. Were you thinking from the beginning more of the approach of let's try to be good on like 5 to 7 maps and scrim those, or were you thinking let's just play 4 maps and be really sick on those to begin with, and then sort of leave, you know, the other maps out there and then we work on them later? Or how do you guys kind of look at the maps?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely didn't go the permaban route where we had a permaban. I think that was like the most glaring weakness in Fnatic's map pool. Was like, I think in Tokyo they didn't play Pearl or there was another map too. There's basically 2 maps they never played. I think it was like Fracture Pearl. So that was like a glaring weakness that we didn't want to have in our game, because we knew if they didn't get that upper bracket like veto advantage, that's like 1 map for you just instantly. So we focused on no permabans. We obviously had Fracture, which was just like that insane outlier that we were just amazing at. And then every other map, we just honestly wanted to be solid at. You know, there's maps that are like always going to be really scrappy. I think Haven is one of those maps that's just like, no matter how good you are on it, like, I feel like if you play a decent team, it's not going to be a blowout ever. It'll always be pretty close. But other than Haven and Fracture, I think those are the outlier maps. I think all of our other maps were always very solid. I think so we were lucky to have that. We were lucky that we weren't really terrible on one single map, because that would have halted our progress a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it was funny too, because when you guys went into the finals, I was just thinking like, wow, I mean, as a fan, it's nice that you don't have the upper bracket advantage right now, because if you guys had that upper bracket advantage, you got to play Fracture against PRX. I think they get kind of, I mean, you guys would have just absolutely just wrecked them off of the veto situation alone, so I was really happy that it kind of worked out that way. Because you guys also, it's also cool because you guys got that lower bracket run too, so that's you know, where you kind of beat you know, Loud, which was an epic match too. So yeah, it all worked out as far as, you know, the quality of the matches. But were you surprised about Loud actually? Because I was kind of surprised about how good they looked going into the Champions.
Yeah, I mean, when they beat Fnatic, that's kind of what we wanted. We wanted Fnatic to, you know, get out, obviously. I think at that point we thought they were the best team there. So Loud beating them, it was like, alright, Loud's looking good, but like they knocked them out, I think. So that's good. And then we had to play Loud. And we were kind of, honestly, it was a little scary. Like, in Tokyo, they did not look like themselves at all. I think everyone knew that. Like, that wasn't Prime Loud. And I think literally all of champs up until our game, they looked like Prime Loud, and that's scary. So yeah, playing them, you know, luckily we were just better. I think that day. I think the maps were pretty even, I'd say, the vetoes. And yeah, I think we were just the better team that day. Luckily, I think they were looking really good the whole entire tournament. So that was a very good game, I think.
Yeah, that was really fun to watch. Yeah, like who do you think like what do you think is going to happen with Loud really over some of the players? Because obviously it seems like some of them will probably be going different directions. Yeah, Aspas is kind of uncertain. He might go. We might see him on a team maybe with some North American, like maybe like a North American team. That could definitely happen for Aspas. He seems like I feel like he's a top 5 duelist in the world, possibly. Like I feel like he's got everything. He has the go button, but he also knows when to not go, which is something that is like really hard with a lot of these like insane jets of his level. And he seems quite versatile too. So do you also similarly place Aspas like very highly? Like what do you think of some of their players?
Yeah, for sure. I think he's top 5. I think that's a given. I think that whole team has, you know, they've already won, so I think that's also a given. They're a world championship caliber team. I think if the rumors are true that, you know, they are separating a little bit, I think the last thing I saw was Sadhack potentially is re-signing with them, so I think that's really good. I think he is like the rock to that team. I don't know how their team works inside, but like from the outside looking in, having an IGL that plays anything, has that kind of attitude outside a game, he looks like, you know, he's that guy that uplifts the whole team. And you know, he's also just really good. So I think having that kind of player is pivotal to having a really good team. And obviously, if Aspas leaves, it sucks losing your star duelist, but also like a world-class duelist at that. I think that's rough. So, you know, we'll see how that works. I think the rest of their core is, you know, insanely good. I think they've also always kind of played the same roles, which is not too usual for a top tier team. I think sometimes they change it up, but you know, Tui's has always played controller, Kawazine has always played flex, and you know, like Sadhack's always played flex too. He plays whatever. So that's that'll suck, I think, but you know, if they're a really good team, I think they'll be able to push through it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get to see some continuity with the roster for sure, because it does suck to have you know, things get broken up too much and have to like, oh, we're kind of starting over again all the time. But I'm curious also your thoughts on like some of the other teams, because there's so many interesting storylines. You know, Fnatic was an interesting one when they went into that opening matchup at Champs as well. It does feel like, yeah, I mean, they had so much riding on the tournament. It's like they wanted to get like every big, you know, win in the year. You know, they wanted to make it so that, you know, they could be that first team with like the best argument for a legacy or an era. No one's ever done it before. Do you think that like played in their minds, or what do you think was the reason for them to like struggling to perform like their usual selves?
100% that thought was like in the back of their head. I think that's a lot of pressure. You know, it's a lot of pressure from the outside, but like obviously I don't know how they think, but like the most pressure I think comes from yourself. I think knowing you just won Tokyo, and like this is the tournament of the year to win. Like this will solidify it. And like knowing everyone has been watching you, copying you, expects you to win probably. Like that's like a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And so it takes like a different kind of person to be able to go through that successfully. And you know, obviously they're all insane, like insane players, very talented, all of them. They're all, I mean, I think there's like, even in this tournament they were all like in the top stats of the tournament, even though they didn't even like, I think they came 3rd or 4th or something. But yeah, it's definitely hard. So I don't blame them at all.
Yeah, it's so tough. It's so tough at that level. I hope they get another shot at it. I mean, it seems like they're keeping the roster together, so yeah. That's really awesome to see. So I'm looking to see them do big things in EMEA, then the world stage next year. EDG also and Bilibili Gaming too from the Chinese region also shocked a lot of people. Do you think this is kind of and obviously you know, you guys played against them. Do you think that this is just like a foreshadowing almost of you know what's to come, because obviously now you know, China is essentially going to be unleashed fully going into next year. So what do you expect from their region?
Yeah, I mean, they showed tons of promise. I mean, EDG in Tokyo obviously had like tons of stock from Tokyo going into champs. You know, Billy surprised to like an insane amount in champs, but yeah, I think it. I guess it's always been the same from that region. It's like in both games, I say it's they always have very good players. Like mechanically, they always like make pretty good decisions from like watching them from the outside and like playing against them. It's always like pretty impressive. But it's like the one thing they always lack whenever we play them or whenever I see them like lose close games is like that small outplay, like when it really matters. And like just for when we play them, it's just like just the readability, I think is like something Boosty pointed out a lot and just said a lot. I think he just has a really easy time calling against those teams, and I mean that's just how it is. I think, you know, they also haven't had the game that long. I don't think they're it's only been a year, right?
Yeah, something like that. It's yeah.
So I think that also plays a big part of it too. It's like all those players are insane mechanically. I think any game they touch probably, but you know, it just takes time. I think only having the game for a year compared to us 3 years, it's obviously that's a disadvantage. So we'll see how it is next year, and you know, a couple years after that.
One thing you mentioned when you're talking about Fnatic was you know, you said pressure, and obviously, you know, you guys had pressure too, in the sense that, especially after the victories that you had in the way that you had it in Tokyo, just like you said, again in your head is like, wow, we can actually win champions here, and you know, that's going to be in the back of your minds for sure, that you can really truly do it, which is definitely a mental shift from we don't expect anything based on everything that's happened in this season in the Tokyo run. So it was amazing that you guys were able to continue to perform despite having some of that stuff in the back of your mind. You obviously have a lot of experience in pressured scenarios, playing on stage with loads of screaming fans and expectations on your shoulders. So what do you do when it comes to pressure? How do you deal with it?
I guess for me, I mean, I don't know. It's like a mentality thing for me. So like in Tokyo, definitely an underdog mentality. I think the whole team had that. But even like going into champs, like every match felt the same as Tokyo. Like we're here and like I think we're good, but if we win, it's like like really like I don't want to say not. I guess it's just about like, really impressive if we win. I think is a good way to put it. Because I just kept that underdog mentality, I guess. And like I think the only time I like expected us to win a game, or like I thought for sure like we should beat these guys, was probably like PRX in the final. I think because we beat them in the last BO5, I feel like our whole team just had like built up confidence. We had the crowd and all of that, but like for all the other games, I thought they were just gonna be like very close games. Like I think we're good. The other team's obviously insane, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. I never had like that. Like we're supposed to win this game mindset.
You guys have like pre-performance routines? It's like stuff you do together before the game. That's kind of, you know, some kind of routines of any kind. You guys just kind of roll up, do whatever before you roll up to the stage.
I mean, in Tokyo, like every night we would kind of just chill in the lobby and like just talk about Valorant. That was like our pre-game thing the night before, I guess, in Tokyo. The vibes were like very good. You know, obviously like I think this was the first LAN for like most of my team, if not all of them. I guess Brazil, but I never counted Brazil. So maybe I guess it was our second LAN, but this was like a huge opportunity for everyone on the team. And we were winning too, so like the vibes were very good. But in LA, we didn't really do much 4 games. Yeah, we kind of just showed up. I think everyone like, this is the first team I've been on where everyone just like just spawns in on stage just like completely warmed up. I don't know, it's crazy. Like everyone's just like perma hype on stage, just ready to go. No one starts off slow, and I've never had that for a team. So that might contribute to the winning a little bit, but I think they save it all for the match because in scrims and in practice, man, it's like they are not like that. They're slugs. They're snails in practice. I don't know. But on stage, I mean, that's all you can ask for. You can ask for good players.
Amazing. That's insane. Yeah, because that is like a thing that so many people struggle with. Like that, like we had that issue in 100 Thieves, like cold starts, just slow starts. It's like the worst thing ever. It's so hard to deal with, and it can like really set such a bad like tone for the rest of the series, where you get behind a little bit, and it's it feels like you're clawing back all the time, and it's a pain. It's a pain. Yeah, it's something that, you know, let's say, you know, you're able to stay together. I hope that that's the case. I really want that to be the case, that you guys stay together, because obviously there's all sorts of, you know, roster, you know, rumors, and everything's wild at the moment, and I'm sure it's infinitely stressful for you guys. If that's the case, you know, what are the things you'll be looking to do, you know, because obviously, as you said, there's, you know, quite a few months until you guys are, you know, in the next season. It's so far away. What do you do with all that time?
Yeah, I think, you know, no matter how the team goes, I think during the off season, there are some off season tournaments, which is pretty cool for Riot to do, or whoever's hosting them. I think I don't know if we would play any of them, because I just don't know the logistics of them. But I think you know, starting practice early, making sure everyone kind of stays in contact with each other. I think the worst thing you can do is like just completely like alienate your whole team and just kind of go hibernate for 3 months and then come back and like be like, hey, what's up guys, I haven't talked to you in like however long. So that's a big thing. I don't think that'll be a thing with our team. I think, you know, everyone's pretty close. But yeah, it's hard because, you know, for holidays and stuff like that, it's like weeks before, or like not even that long before the matches start. So I feel like as long as everyone stays like individually ready, and you know, all that, I think all the team stuff pretty much just comes back to you like pretty fast, I'd say. You know, it's all just strategy and all that, but like all the small plays and stuff, I think everyone kind of keeps with them.
Got it. Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys can stay connected and not sort of just disappear off the face of the planet, get, you know, lost in your own lives. You know, in reflection, you know, looking back, you know, thinking back on the whole year, if you exclude sort of obviously winning the finals, because that's the obvious answer for this question, you know, what are some of the moments that you're most kind of personally proud of?
Yeah, I think there was like a specific wins in Tokyo that like whenever we won, like obviously like I don't show a lot of emotion after wins, like that's, everyone knows that, like after all these like Tokyo wins and champs wins, like it's mostly my teammates. So after all these wins, I just like look around and I always like see kind of how people react. And I just remember there's the picture of Boosty after a win where he just like his glasses fell off his face and he's like hands on top of his head, just like just like half crying, half yelling. I just remember like seeing him after that win. I don't know what it was, but like that was like a highlight of my year for sure. Just like seeing that, just like seeing just like how people react after wins is like I don't know, it's just a highlight for me, because like obviously winning is awesome, and like even if I don't portray it visibly, it's awesome. So that, just like seeing how people react is like huge.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I was just picturing that. It is quite a picture to behold. I do love like
a good picture.
The personality on the team it's amazing. Actually, too, you guys, you know, you won essentially, you know, a major that's in North America. That's not many North American players get the honor to win in front of a home crowd too. So that's also so epic that you guys were able to do that. And I loved also like the moments, you know, Boosty running around with the flag, the American flag as well. It's just fantastic, so awesome.
Yeah, they enjoyed it as they should. So
So, you know, we talked about, you know, just some of the hardships you've gone through, because it has been like such a, honestly, I really feel like just from the outside, you know, it just seems like it's been just a tough, you've had some tough moments in your career of late, and now you've got these like amazing last, you know, 6 months or so. What's like, where do you get your drive from? Because obviously you weren't, you know, sleeping during that time when stuff was rough. You were always an amazing player, and you probably could have. You could have easily still been an amazing player and just not put as much work in. But obviously, it wouldn't be the case that you would have been able to perform as you did if you were sort of, you know, just sleeping or just deciding to, you know, maybe just spend your time doing other things, focusing elsewhere, losing your attention on the mission. How do you stay, like, where does that drive come from for you?
I think just like knowing how it feels to lose or just like be in a bad spot is like insanely motivating for me, because like obviously like I've lost a lot in my career. It's been a lot. It's been 7 years of like mostly losing. Honestly, it's mostly losing and like hints of like really good wins. So that's a lot of people's careers, I think, and for me that's a lot of the motivation, because I know what comes from losing. And it's not fun. I think you know, after I got cut from energy the first time, I guess the only time, when I got cut from energy, it was like very bad. I think that was like the one point in my life where I like didn't really know what to do, because like franchising was coming up. That was like the make it or break it point. If you don't make franchising, like at that point in my head, if I don't make franchising, like my career's over. And like luckily there was one spot on EG that I could swoop into, and like even if it, like that was in my head, it was probably like one of the worst teams in the league, but I knew like if I could get on a team, I could make them at least like pretty decent. So that was like the shining light, I think, for that moment at least. But yeah, just like knowing how it feels in that situation, like that, I don't want to go to that situation again. So that's like the main driving factor, I think.
Have you always been like highly competitive as a person? What was there for you before you started competing? You know, at the young age of 16. You know, what was before that? Where else did this competitiveness sort of manifest itself in your life?
Yeah, I mean, other than like, you know, the normal like I was competitive because of sports or whatever, it's like it really started like in like CS. Honestly, I think you know, CS, like when I started on a pro team, that was like the only time I've really like competed in something that mattered, I guess. Other than that, it was just like kids sports and stuff. So it's like whatever. But you know, being able to like say your first competitive experience was like flying to a different country and like playing like top teams for money, that's like a pretty big thing. So that was definitely like, I think CS was probably the start. I think that's kind of where it manifested and grew, and that's definitely why I'm here today, for sure.
Do you have any sort of like role models or inspirations that have kind of like stuck with you in your mind, like throughout the many years you've been competing, that you kind of have like drawn inspiration from and have helped with that drive a bit? Or
I think like at the start of CS, it was just like, I guess like inspirational, like top players like Nothing, I think, and like Shroud, I remember, were like my two idols, I guess, when I was like first starting to play. But it's weird when you get to the point where you like play your idols like a decent amount, and like sometimes beat them. So that kind of like changes your perspective a little bit. Like, not obviously like nothing but respect for them. I think those guys were like my main role models when I was like first starting. But I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't think anyone is like. I don't really look up to anybody, I guess. I think I kind of just like compete with myself, honestly. And I think you know, I think that's a good way to do it. I think comparing yourself to others is like a little, it could be bad for you, but it could also be very motivating. So, you know, I try to keep it internalized. I try to like compete with myself mainly. I think that's a good way to do it, for me, personally.
yeah, no, it makes total sense. It makes total sense to me too. I mean, also when you're when you're a competitor, you kind of like can't have that mindset, can you? Of like, oh, this person is above, because you're in your head, you're like, I am trying to be the best in the world, so I can't have like a special place for I can't put anyone else on the pedestal because I'm on that pedestal, bitch. It's kind of
yeah.
It's kind
like,
of, you know.
Yeah. When I played CS and I played like Cold Zero and I played like Simple, like obviously I thought like, wow, like I'm in a server with these guys, like that's crazy. Like these guys are way better than I am. So like it was definitely hard playing against them for sure. Like anyone you look up to like that, or just like think is just insanely good. And like when you're new, I guess, because like right now, obviously, when I play Loud, I play Fnatic, and like playing like these guys that I think are just insane. But I also hold myself up to like the same standard. It's way different. So I think it's just a different way to look at it.
Who are some players that you respect a lot, or who are the ones that you respect the most? I'd be curious to know if there's any who's either it's because of their story or it's because of what they've you know, been able to do.
Yeah, definitely Boaster. I think Boaster is like that standout guy. I think because I know how it is to like come from where he came from. You know, he was like a CS player in like the tier 2 league, I think, and he just pushed himself to get where he is to get today. And I can tell he puts in a lot of work. And just from like hearing their like voice comms, their videos, and like everything like that, you can tell he's like a real leader. And I think you know, it takes a lot of work to do that. So tons of respect to him for sure.
Do you think there's like who do you think the best IGLs are in North America? Like where do you think we might be lacking? Because it is so, like, again, working under season, really kind of like trying to figure that out too. To me, it seems like an insanely hard role. I don't want to say underappreciated, because I know that people do know that it's a role that has a lot to it, but I almost still feel like people don't know and you know, that there's so much that does go into it, and it's very, very hard to do wear all of the different hats. You know, being sort of the team captain, or being someone that has a strategic vision, someone that's going to be working outside of the server with the coach a lot, someone that might be really involved in how the team's kind of programmed, even, you know, taking control of a lot of things. Possibly they don't have to, but you know, as the IGL, you can go that far. And so I think that's why Boast is so special, because he wears all those hats. I think you're completely right, like the best of anyone.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you were saying, I think NA is definitely like, I mean, I guess honestly all the regions are a little dry for IGOs, because I think it's just such a hard thing to do. I think it's such a, there's just so many easier roles to be good at, I guess, that many people don't really choose the IGO role. I don't think anyone really chooses it, honestly. I think it's kind of like forced onto them, and then they just be good at it.